Hello. We are in the Old Salem Visitor Center where we're learning about the history of this whole area.
Moravians.
Moravian. So, this is a timeline that talks about what exactly has happened in this area from 1415, where
John Hus.
John Hus, a Catholic priest that was burned at the stake in 1415 after heretic as a heretic after challenging corruption and advocating reform. Sounds like my kind of guy. His followers became known as Hussites, and they represent the early beginnings of the Moravian Church. And then we go to 1783, that marks the end of the American Revolution. North Carolina's governor declared the day of Thanksgiving for peace on July 4th, 1783. And the Moravians honored the proclamation with music, song, and prayer. And then right here, 1822, a separate congregation was formed for the African American residents of Salem, and we know why.
Oh, wait a minute. We'll find out why.
And then here's a map of this area about that time frame. And then this is a brief description about the African Americans in Salem. Yes.
Look at this one. The year 1861 ended a long history of pacifism, when Moravians served on both sides of the Civil War in Salem. A Greek revival style brick church was built to accommodate the growing African American congregation growing in this area.
Okay. So in 1851, the city of Winston was established as the county seat of Forsyth. The town grew and encompassed the older Moravian community of Salem. In 1913, 110 years ago, the two officially merged to become the city of Winston-Salem.
And then you took a picture of this?
I did.
Okay.
I took a picture of that.
I did too.
And then let's capture. So Wesley Washington Fries was born in Salem and enslaved to Wilhelm Fries. He was baptized on August 5th, 1845 at the Moravian Church. And we understand that his remains are somewhere along this property. And maybe we will come across his mark, his headstone. So that's all for now. So the most famous visitor to Salem was none other than George Washington, who visited here in the summer of 1791 while touring the new United States. And this is some information about his visiting this area. Apparently, he was very impressed by the town's water system and community buildings, but he was more impressed by its citizens. He was obliged to the Moravians for their patriotic sentiments and respected their principles of industry as an expectation toward the future prosperity of their country. And this looks like a Gilbert Stuart painting. All right, so we are now at the Old Salem Heritage Bridge, and this was constructed about 25 years ago, 1998, but it certainly looks like a wooden bridge back in the old days.
Planning an engagement, so we're trying to figure out what would be good spots.
Okay.
Like here. Okay, you can go down.
And so my mother-in-law is taking pictures of apparently some people doing a site visit of a wedding venue, which I think this would be perfect as a wedding venue. Let me twist this thing around. And we are actually walking over the street.
That's when he asked me what I would say if he was there. I guess that's sort of special, isn't it? Yeah. If I said no, he'd do nothing. That's fine.
Okay, we're approaching the Frank L. Horton Museum Center, it looks like. But before we get to the museum, I think we see another diagram of Old Salem. So this is obviously
Is this a place we can go in?
Yeah, this is the museum.
what downtown Salem perhaps looked like in the 1700s and 1800s. And this is a map that shows where a lot of the buildings are. And we're about to enter the Frank L. Horton Museum Center. And it tells us that we are here. All right. So go to Instagram, I believe, at Old Salem Inc. Looks like they have an Instagram page. They're on Facebook. And appears that they're on that platform now known as X. Okay. All right. Okay, so maybe you mentioned that they're the oldest piece
Of Southern furniture in America.
Okay.
Is back there.
Okay, and what is it?
It's a cork cupboard. So everything that you'll see back there is nicely labeled.
Okay.
And because we cover the 8 states back there, you'll also see a map of
Okay.
where that item is from in each state.
Okay. And I take it the states that are covered are the states that are
The Carolinas, Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama.
okay, so the early states.
Yeah.
Okay.
Early Southern states.
Wonderful.
So that's the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts. That's
Okay.
what Mazda is.
So I think that's where we'll start.
Okay?
We're going to go to the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Art.
We start here and then go down to the Moravians, or go to the Moravians?
We can start here.
I think the piece of furniture is right here.
No, that's from Mecklenburg County.
And that was Mary.
This is from Mecklenburg County, that's not.
From Jamestown.
Piece of furniture.
That is beautiful.
I'm over 200 years old, don't touch, but people love to take selfies with me. All right. Well, we will take a selfie with you. All right, so this side chair, possibly by James Anderson, who died in 1759 in Annapolis, Maryland. It appears to be made of walnut and yellow pine. And it was a gift of Dr. and Mrs. Thomas Sears. Can you imagine? This chair was around when George Washington was around. This is Martha Corbin, a teenager. Her and her parents and younger siblings were all painted by Pennsylvania-born artist John Hicelius, who worked throughout the southern end of the mid-Atlantic colonies. Martha's portrait passed through her family for more than 200 years and was generally entrusted to the association just this year by her descendants. So this desk and bookcase, John Shaw from Annapolis, Maryland, anywhere from 1790 to 1800. He was born, likely trained in Glasgow, Scotland. By 1768, he had established himself in Annapolis. Shaw supported independence from Great Britain during the Revolution and was appointed armorer of the state of Maryland. Patriotic embellishments like the eagle on this desk that you see right there were very popular in the decades following the Revolution. This is one of three similar desk and bookcases made in Shaw's workshop. It was originally owned by Dr. Gerard Wood of Charles County, Maryland, a Revolutionary War surgeon and founding member of the Society of the Cincinnati in Maryland. Both Dr. Wood and John Shaw were enslaved people, highlighting the contrast between revolutionary ideals of liberty and the reality of slavery. And then, of course, this reproduction wallpaper. Thomas Everard used this damask wallpaper pattern in the dining room of his Williamsburg, Virginia home. Okay, so we understand at the very beginning, I think, let's see, are the states, we understand that these are the early states, the early southern states. Are they all arranged in the collection together, or they're just kind of interspersed throughout the museum?
So we have it sectioned out. If you look at this map here, we have it in three sections. So
Okay.
we have the Chesapeake, the Low Country, and then the Inland South or the Back Country.
Okay.
So yes and no.
Okay.
So let's say like Tennessee and Kentucky are going to be solely Back Country, but there's parts of North Carolina that may be part of the Chesapeake, but also may be part of Lowland South. Or
And can
Back
you tell us why Kentucky and Tennessee is considered the backcountry?
Sure. So we're looking only at the South when we're talking about the furniture that's at this specific museum. In terms of, so if we're thinking about the early South, so this is all pre-Civil War. So the items that we have date from the mid 1600s, mid 1800s. So all before industrialization. So all these things are being made by hand by craftspeople. And we're talking about like some of the original 13 colonies and then a little bit extra. So you're coming in originally on the coast and then moving back. So the Chesapeake is just this top area, and then you have the Low Country, which is going to be just a little bit lower because you're moving down. And so then as you go further back, that's kind of why it just gets coupled in as back country.
Okay.
So where we're at today would be considered the back country. We have it labeled so you can see on the map there.
Oh.
So when
okay.
you go downstairs, you can learn more about Moravian history and why that's significant
Okay.
as a trade center.
And even though Alabama is listed, it's not really considered. It's not part of the collection.
So it is part of the collection. It's fairly new, so we don't have as many furniture objects from Alabama.
Okay.
This is called Whitehall, so this is a changing exhibit room. But we had Alabama pottery back here from early summer until early October.
Oh.
And then we
interesting.
have a piece of pottery back in our ceramics gallery that's going to cover that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That was very helpful. Okay, so for my good friends in Charlestown, Harpers Ferry, Martinsburg, you will not believe this, but this is John Shearer, who made this. He lived in Martinsburg, apparently, and it's listed as West Virginia, but we know at that time Martinsburg was part of Virginia. There was no West Virginia until 1863. This desk was made around 1801. The bookcase was made in 1806. Walnut, cherry, mulberry, yellow pine, and oak. It was owned by Philip Clayton Pendleton of Martinsburg and his son Edmund Pendleton of Winchester. So I'm sure they have lots of descendants in the Braryville, Winchester, Charlestown, Harpers Ferry area. This chair, from my friends in the Nashville area, was made from Richard Poynter in Williamson County, which of course Williamson County in the early 1800s is nothing like Williamson County today. He was an enslaved chairmaker who purchased his freedom during the 1850s. Following his emancipation, he operated a chair factory specializing in turned and shade, fancy painted chairs like this one. This chair was originally made for Poynter's church, the Leaper's Fork Church of Christ. Oh, wow, this is really fascinating. So right here, this printed fractal record records the life of doctor and charcoal artist Salem Amos Hinkle, 1813 to 1844, the youngest son of Dr. Solomon Hinkle and his wife, Rebecca Miller of Newmarket, Shenandoah County, Virginia. The green fancy chair behind you, let's see, must be over there. Was also owned by this family. Salem's fractal goes far beyond the basic information usually recorded on a topician. It includes extensive genealogical, biographical, and cultural information. It even details Hinkle's death, funeral, and burial. Wow, is that not interesting? So, elaborately decorated documents like these were produced in Germanic communities from New York to South Carolina in the mid 18th through 19th centuries. And they were called fractor, from the Latin word fractura, which means breaking. And then this is an artist from Newberry County, South Carolina. So right here in this section, for my Eastern Panhandle folks, you're not going to believe this. First, there's a dish from Hagerstown, Henrietta. Then there's another covered bowl, two covered bowls from Hagerstown, a sugar pot from Winchester, a lion figure, which you see spinning around, also from Winchester, and a flower pot from Winchester. So this is extremely fascinating for all of my friends in Harpers Ferry, Charlestown, Hagerstown, Winchester. It's called the Shenandoah Valley Earthenware. So my good father-in-law just pointed out to me that there are what's called Edgefield face vessels, and there are a number of face vessels that all come from Edgefield, South Carolina, Edgefield County, South Carolina. And of course, that is in the Augusta, Aiken metro area. So what in the world was going on in Edgefield County that they produced this type of, this is interesting. So this is earthenware from North Carolina, Piedmont. You have a dish from Randolph County, a dish from Alamance County, and of course Alamance County is where Kunta Kinte was originally. Randolph, Lincoln County, Alamance, two dishes from Alamance County. So look how intricate these pieces are. Now, apparently they were all made pre-Civil War. And this ring bottle was made around 1830. And it was made as a gift for the abolitionist Amos Weaver. Wow. Very, very interesting. This door is locked, but apparently it shows you what a pioneer home looked like. Yes, good morning. So this is the Moravian town of Salem, this area. So could you tell us a little bit about how the town got started?
Sure. It was settled in 1766 by the Moravians. They were big-time missionaries. They were seeking religious freedom because, like so many other denominations, Quakers, Puritans, they were being persecuted. They were from central Czechoslovakia,
Okay.
and they were Germanic. And so they came over here. First, they went to, let me come over here with the camera.
Okay.
They first came, this is showing all the missions and congregations around the world that was settled by the Moravians, okay? So you have, this is the American segment. They first went to St. Thomas.
That's what's smart.
Yeah, and then they went to Savannah, Georgia,
Yeah.
okay? But Georgia was the border, it's kind of a border colony with Spanish Florida. There was an awful lot of unrest.
Yeah.
Malaria was an issue with the mosquitoes. And you still have it's still a very active, it's Protestant religion closest to Lutherans. So you have, you still have folks, a lot of Moravian congregations in Georgia, but then they headed up to Pennsylvania. They went to Bethlehem and Nazareth and Luditz. So this is kind of the North American limb or branch. Eventually, 1753, 15 men came down from Pennsylvania, down the Great Wagon Road, and settled the 6 areas in our community.
Oh.
They were able to find an abandoned shack, and they settled in Bethabara, Bethania, but all along Salem was going to be a center of trade and commerce, and that was settled in 1766.
So they went up to Pennsylvania and then back down.
They were huge missionaries. I mean, that was their goal, that to settle missions and spread the word. But this was a congregational town, so only Moravians could live here. They welcomed you to come. They said, come and, come shopping. You will see when you leave us. The closest next site is a gunsmith across the street. But then you'll see the Moravian Tavern, Old Salem Tavern. That's where you could come and stay, spend the night, have a meal, go shopping, but then you would have to go home. So
Right.
only Moravians could live here. They were noted for their ceramics, furniture making, silversmithing, and long rifles. But they were just so talented. Also, education was stressed. They had a boys' school that you can go in. Also, there was in 1772, they established a school for young ladies.
Here in Salem?
Yeah, which was very, that was really unusual. And it's still running. It's still a continuous running school.
Is it
It's
here on Main Street or?
When you head up Main Street, you're gonna come to a square, and you'll see like the little fireman's pump, and to your right is gonna be, it's still,
The girls'
Salem,
school?
yeah, there's an academy, there's a girls' school and also a college, and it's still running.
Oh, Salem College, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But
I've
it
heard
started
of
off as the academy, and they had girls, initially it was for educating the girls here in Salem, but it was so popular, folks would send their girls from other states. They schooled, I wanna say 13 Native American girls went to the school. Also, you don't have to use your ticket, but there's a single sister's house that's also on that square, right there, that's on Church Street. And that you can kind of go through, and it gives you a good idea of what was going. Did you take a picture there?
I need to.
Yeah, you ought to go in there. It's really very interesting, but that's self-guided, but it's fun.
Okay.
That's about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, when this village was in place, North Carolina was a recognized colony? And so I'm assuming that after statehood came, the village remained in place?
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, it was established in 1766 as a town,
okay.
and then when, you had independence, became a state, it was still here.
We're still here?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still here. And then in
Wow.
the early 1900s, it merged with Winston, because you had two separate entities. You had
Yes.
Salem and you had Winston, then it became Winston-Salem.
Wow.
Yeah, so enjoy.
Thank you so much. Very helpful information.
Very welcome.
Okay. Now this thing is turned toward me, just so you know. So these are authentic chairs and furniture from the village of Salem,
1700s.
Revolutionary era.
I wonder where, Judy has a grandfather clock that's been in our family for a long time. And I'm sure it has written in it somewhere where it was made. It looks similar to these. I'll have to ask, if she doesn't have.
So Christian
Huh?
Benzian and his wife Anna Maria, they were on the same voyage as the artists who painted their portraits. And they were instrumental in organizing the Moravian settlement in the 1750s. Wow. Look at this little dainty clock. It was made around 1825. So Catherine Hedge, and then her sister, Christina Hedge, we've seen them in this museum before. But they both wed in 1828, and it's likely that both of their portraits were painted at the time that they got married. Catherine married the artist Daniel Welfare. Christina married hat maker Adam Butner, who lived from 1800 to 1884. And this table clock from right here in Salem was made around 1830. It's of cherry, poplar, brass, steel, steel iron, porcelain, and paper. Clockmaker Johann Ludwig Eberhardt arrived here in 1799. Shop inventories taken between 1806 and 1835 list table clocks among his inventory, suggesting this was a common form in Salem. Look at this, look at this, look at this. I need to grab you a picture of it. This desk and bookcase, Johann Friedrich Below came here from Herrenhut, Germany in 1806. This was made anywhere from 1806 to 1825. Look at this footstool that was made 1815, 1825. Wall sconce. Isaac and Elizabeth Boner. He was a Salem hat maker, as evidenced by the hat in his wife's hand. Notice the couple sits on a sofa that's very similar to this one right here. All right. So right here is a clavichord. I guess that's similar to a harpsichord. The maker is unknown. Its wooden case was made in the Single Brothers Joinery under the mastership of Johannes Kraus. Music was an integral part of Moravian worship and daily life. It was an important aspect of boys and girls education, and many members of the community played instruments. Salem had its own orchestra in the 1780s, and brass bands played regularly as parts of religious worship to announce births and deaths in the community. By 1800, Salem had 3 organs, two by David Tannenberg, an acclaimed Moravian organ builder and member of Lititz, Pennsylvania congregation. So, now this is one of the most interesting things I've seen in this exhibit so far. In 1786, Gottlieb Schober operated the earliest significant tinsmith shop in Salem. 8 years later, he took the Johann Christian Reich into the trade. Reich then trained his sons, Philip and Jacob, and generations of the Reich family continued to work in the tinsmith trade until well in the 20th century. So what you have here is a mouse trap, a butter and egg churn, a lamp, a sausage stuffer, a chandelier head, a weather vane, a cake pan, all made in the early 1800s. And these were products of the Reich shop.
Okay,
Welcome to the Moravian Gallery. Thank you. You're very welcome, and you'll get any questions.
Will do, thank you.
Where are you from?
San Francisco Station.
Good, we have a pretty day. Are you starting on this level or?
what do we see?
Those just little miniatures.
We started up here. Same format here. The difference is you're centered and.
All done by this
Let's
Elias
wander
Butler,
up
who
Main
was the
Street.
son of-
There is a cafe if you want lunch.
It's nice and cool in here.
Apprentice to his father.
So, but they welcomed you to come shop here, stay at the tavern, have a meal. But then you would have to go home, unless you were right there. It was wonderful. This was really, very fast, like I said.
I'm going up the elevator.
Oh, so that must be husband and wife.
Are you all coming?
Uh-huh.
Should I don't want it to start beeping at us.
Might not do that.
What's that for the other two? We're not.
They'll figure it out.
So there's a cafe that has salad sandwiches stuff, but the bakery, she said, better to go earlier than later because some of the things sell out every day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there they are.
Repeat it.
Look like a little cigarette machine.
It is an old cigarette machine.
somebody lived in it.
Well, there's probably design standards in place for this district.
Oh, yeah.
So,
No, but that's an old house, somebody lived in it. Yeah. It's one of the ones marked on the map that is real, that somebody's living in. What? I can't hear you.
The gunsmith is right
Oh,
here.
yeah.
since you don't want to be on, why don't you hold this while But the only thing is, when it's in video mode, I'm taking like periodic like still pictures, and I'm having to flip it around. So
Why? What? What am I doing?
we're taking video. Press the unpause, but I tell you, let me get stationary. I want to get an establishing shot of this.
Hang on. How do I flip it?
It don't flip. So I just have to just turn it around.
Well, then how can I know if it's pointing at you?
Oh, in terms of the video,
Yeah.
you just have to just look through. Just look through right there.
Yeah, but then it's pointing at me.
Oh God, I don't want to change this. All right, so we're here at the, what is this, gun shop?
Yeah, the gunsmith.
This is the gunsmith. And how do I know it's the gunsmith? 'Cause look what's right up here. So we're gonna go in.
Then I'll be able to start shaving it down into that sort of final shape. Now, Timothy did have the advantage of working in the Industrial Revolution, which means that he had the ability to purchase things like barrels and locks pre-made, and that would cut down on his time, turn it into about 2.5 to 3 weeks. I do ask if you're filming that pictures are perfectly welcome, but no video.
Okay, super.